Have you ever been puzzled by how check constraints work in your database? It can be quite confusing, right? If you're wondering when these constraints are evaluated, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into the world of check constraints and their evaluation timing. I totally get it. It can be frustrating when you're trying to ensure data integrity and you're not sure how constraints are evaluated. You're not alone in this. Many developers face similar challenges. Let's set the stage with a specific question from a user. They have two tables, records and entities, and they want to know if check constraints run at the end of a transaction or after each insert or update. This is crucial because it affects how their constraints might interact. Understanding how check constraints work is key. They are designed to enforce rules at the database level, ensuring that data adheres to certain conditions. But the timing of their evaluation can significantly impact your data operations. And stick around. At the end of this video, I'll share a tip that can help you avoid conflicts between constraints and keep your database running smoothly. To understand when check constraints are evaluated, it's important to know that they are checked after each modification to the data. This means that every time the user inserts or updates a record, the constraints are evaluated immediately. In this scenario, the user has two check constraints. One is on the entity table, ensuring that the current record ID is valid, and the other is on the record table, ensuring that if a record has a status of 0, its entity ID matches the current record ID. Since the constraints are evaluated after each modification, there is a potential for conflict. If the user updates the record table and then tries to update the entity table, the first constraint may fail before the second one has a chance to update its value. To avoid conflicts, the user should consider the order of operations in their queries. They can ensure that the record table is updated first, followed by the entity table, to maintain consistency and avoid constraint violations. In summary, check constraints run after each modification, and the user should be mindful of the order in which they perform updates to prevent errors. Fun fact: the concept of constraints in databases is like having a strict teacher who ensures you follow the rules. If you break them, you face the consequences. Now let's look at the answers provided by other users. This user clarifies that check constraints are evaluated before any changes are made to the data. If a change violates a constraint, an exception is thrown immediately. That's the end of that answer. Let's see another perspective. An alternative approach provided by a user involves creating a check constraint using a function. This function displays existing records before any data modifications occur, ensuring that the check is performed prior to changes. The user demonstrates this with a simple example, inserting a new state and updating it, while the check constraint ensures data integrity throughout the process. Here's a tip to manage your constraints effectively. Always design your constraints with the order of operations in mind. This can help prevent conflicts and ensure smooth data transactions. And there you have it. Understanding when check constraints are evaluated can save you from potential headaches. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe for more insights and remember to keep your database well structured.